infected and non-infected alike.
That's why our home is so precious.
Here is my primary thought coming out of this movie. I no longer have the nervous system of a 22-year-old. This movie just thrust me directly back into this world. I'm so impressed with it. And I wonder if you as filmmakers, having made so many varied films since the very first, 28 Days Later, do you feel as though you have a different view of humanity than you did then?
No, one of the things I loved about it was the intention was always both from it's a cool ingredient, but it's also a very truthful one as well, is that the sickness, the rage, the infection is part of all of us, whether we're infected, a la the film, or not. So that's true in the first film and true in the second film. And I like that because it makes us the authors and responsible for it. Whether we're infected or not, we're all responsible in some way for it. And it's Kelson who most clearly identifies that. He's building a memorial for everyone, really. And it looks like a horrific horror movie ingredient, piles of skulls, etc. A man covered in orange paint, but actually he's a deeply compassionate man who is found a way to build something for a future that nobody else really seems to believe in. There doesn't seem to be a future for this isolated island, but he is building something, not just for himself. It occupies himself. He's a visionary. He's building something for the future so that we can remember, so that there will be a time when this is past and we can look back at it.
And to that point, actually, that set is so incredible. Is that something that was erected in the middle of a forest that, say, someone could accidentally stumble upon and be very concerned about?
Yeah, they could. Yeah,
yeah, they could. Yeah, it was on private land. It was built on private land, but yeah, you do get people. There was a rites of passage, like a hiker's way. So there were some people who used to stop and stare. You could see them staring at this thing in the middle of the Yorkshire countryside. Yeah.
And I have to say, there's also something I'm quite fixated on, which is that the zombies in this, from a production standpoint, are unclothed, covered in blood, and quite filthy. And between takes, was there quite a considerable budget for robes to cover everyone?
Not really. And I'll tell you why. Because there's a very serious point here, which we didn't know. So we started having meetings about, setting up the show. And the intimacy coordinator, who was this Australian woman, she said, it's an offence under the British Child Sex Offences Act for a 12-year-old to be in a space, not just a room, but a space with any adult who is revealing their genitalia. And it's like suddenly every single person who was going to be in it, who was going to be naked, and the infected would be naked, had to wear fake genitalia, men and women. So there you go. That was a huge increase in the budget right there that we had no idea was coming our way. And that kept them warm, wearing the shorts earlier on. Yeah.
Are the worms that are eaten by the infected real?
No, they're those jelly sweets. Those you can buy them these days. You just wobble them around a bit, and everybody thinks they're real.
And can you give us, Alex, maybe any small glimpse into what we're going to see with these next two films? I didn't know this was going to be a trilogy. I couldn't be happier.
I think I could say that in the second film, the guy that we meet at the very beginning and end of the first film, Jimmy, he becomes a central character. And the other thing is that what the film is doing in some ways is it's sort of shortening the distance between the infected and the non-infected. because you have this doctor who doesn't really see them as different. He sees them as sick people rather than, as it were, another species or subhuman or something like that. And you can see that in the way he chooses to defend himself against them. And so those two component parts, the nature of the infected, the way that doctor responds to them, and Jimmy become something that follows through. These films are related, but they're not, as it were, cliffhangers to the other. They're sort of self-contained in some ways, but then something is picked up and continued moving forward.
I'm so impressed that you both have so much more to say about this world, and I'm on board completely. So thank you very much.
Thank
Awesome.
you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.